We've actually marched 12 kilometres in the rain. We're here at the gates of Shoalwater Bay Military Training Area, where the biggest war games happening just on the other side. What they represent is an increase in militarisation in the area, in the contamination of the land, the disrespect of Indigenous land.
Land is very, very important to the Aboriginal person. It's more than real estate. It's more than a place to live. It's where our dreaming comes from. And when that land is taken away, well, you know, look at some of our people who get around here, they're lost. They don't know who they are in their own country. And I want to prevent, you know, my family and my people from being that way.
The group of us that came down to these gates are from around Australia and actually from across the world. We feel that, you know, if we don't put a stop to this, you know, they're just going to get more arrogant. We're going to be there wherever they are and say no.
There's a lot of troops in America who are also realising that they can resist, but they're saying we're not going to follow orders. And if the movement continues to grow, the realisation that the public is behind them, like they're behind the troops in the sense that they don't want them to have to go there and follow orders and die for no reason or kill people for the interests of rich global leaders and businesses and oil.
They continue to pour billions and billions of dollars and deploy soldiers over there.
Soldiers against the war!
US vets against the war. We were distributing a leaflet to you in there. I'd advise people to read them. US veterans against the war. It's growing in size. They're agitating on the ground in Iraq. We encourage these soldiers to join us in a rebellion against these unjust wars, and we will bring it to an end. And we've got to take this government down and take this militarism down.
The next day the sun came up and it was the time for the mass rally through the streets of Yeppoon.
To think of people bombing it and poisoning the ecology, affecting the wildlife, the fish, the dugongs, is just devastating actually.
There are potentially millions of unexploded ordnance in the training grounds of the US around the world, and who knows how many are in Shoalwater Bay. Apparently the American government tried to estimate how many of the bombs and artillery that they shot around didn't explode, and it's something like 5%. So that's a pretty good indication that over the 40 years since Shoalwater Bay started being used.
We live on our sailboat and we could not anchor at Shoalwater Bay in the last weeks because it's closed for military operations. Then when we learned it was closed because they were training Americans, we said, this is it, we are furious about this. And we stopped to found this group, and we've been volunteering to try to do what we can.
As Americans, we know what the American government is capable of in terms of destruction and slaughtering people. In the United States, we say George Bush really has only two friends in the world, John Howard and his dog Barney. As a kind of an empire in decline, the one thing we have is military might at this point. Australians are great customers for all of our used military equipment. It's the taxpayers' money from Australia that are helping to support the repurchase of armaments that we've already paid for as American taxpayers.
When the Cold War ended, America kind of lost its enemy. And the reason it needs enemies is because the military-industrial complex steals most of the American taxpayers' dollars to build weapons, and they don't even have a healthcare system there. It's a cruel country, and we're starting to emulate it.
We've perhaps been, over many, many years, brainwashed into thinking that we can't do anything by ourselves. We have to have Big Brother looking after us. And I think it's time that Australians started to think, well, you can be friends with somebody, but that doesn't mean that you have to slavishly follow everything that they want you to do.
We continued on to the military base at Rockhampton, had a bit of an action there.
His mind is losing control.
Hey soldiers, on your cause! You don't have
dressing those men in those barracks there who are about to go on the battlefields and have their limbs blown off. When you see what goes on the battlefield on television, you don't really know what it's like to be on a battlefield. Any man who's had that experience knows that war's no answer to any damn thing. What war is about power and profit.
Raise the base to stop the war! Troops out now! Raise the base to stop the war! Troops out now! Close the bases and the occupation!
What we can see is that while the amount of money and energy which is going into training American and Australian soldiers right around the world, trying to train the pro-US part of the Iraqi army, who doesn't need any training? It's the people who are resisting in Iraq. They don't need the training camps. They don't need the billions of dollars. They are beating US imperialism on the ground in Iraq.
Every time they pick up a leaflet, every time one soldier shows sir, no sir to another soldier, that the word spreads around. And make no bones about it. Without a little action even out at the base yesterday, the few leaflets that went through the fence, there will not be a soldier inside that base that doesn't know that there were Australian peace protesters there, anti-war protesters there, that had connections with the Iraqi vets against the war.
And we know that for every one of us who's made it up in the bus from Sydney, from Brisbane, who lives in Yeppoon, who lives in Rockhampton, there are thousands of other people who would like to be here, who would like to be blockading this base, who want to shut down Australia's support for this diabolical war.
This is going to continue to grow. This crisis is only going to continue to get worse, and I think we, have got to stand here today and continue to make a statement and take this militarism down.